Today on the Trey Hart channel, we're going to talk about planning for the future. Hello and welcome. You're watching the Trey Hart Learning Channel. I'm Ray F. Church and I'm going to be your host for today. As I said earlier, we're going to be talking about planning for the future. One of the pleasures that I get in the current position that I work in the hospital is being able to talk to patients and talk to families. And every day that I'm there, I get an opportunity to go around and talk to the family. Now, one day I was talking to this particular patient, and they had expressed to me that the doctor had told them that they basically weren't going to live very long and that they were concerned. So I had an opportunity to sit down and talk to them. And as we was talking, the patient expressed that they was concerned not about what was going to happen to them after they passed on. They weren't concerned about that. They were concerned about the people that they were leaving behind and what was going to happen to them. And so this got me thinking about, how we can plan for the future. One of the things that has impressed me in the past is that one of the people that was in my past was my mother-in-law, and her name was Beryl Humble, and she always spent time with her grandchildren when she could. She used to spend time, having them over her home, and she would do it individually. She would have them over and spend some time with them, or she would do it in a group. And what this did was this set future precedents that they would remember her and remember being with her and spending time with her. Now, she didn't have any particular disorder that she was worried about something happening to her. But when something did happen to her, this said that the memories were already there and that they were already, present in her children's and in her grandchildren's mind. So whether you have heart failure or any other condition, or even if you have no condition at all, like in this case, one of the things that we talk about is planning for the future. Now, commonly when we have a long-term illness, we start thinking about, what ifs. What if this happens, or what if that happens and I'm not around? So when should we start planning? Well, this basically is up to you. Now, planning for the future should start as early as you feel comfortable doing it. Not everybody likes to talk about planning for the future. We know it will happen eventually, regardless of where we are in our life. But it should happen when it's something that you are comfortable doing. And one of the things that we talk about as well is what decisions do we need to make. Now, commonly in heart failure or somebody with a long-term condition, they start making plans that are going to affect their medical view, and as well that is going to affect their home and is going to affect their finances. One way to do this is to sit down and write what you would call advance directives. Now, fortunately, there are plenty of things online or in the community that can help you write advance directives. Basically, what they do is they tell your family what you would like happen to you should certain scenarios come up. Now, this should be something as well that you would discuss with your family, so basically that they're not blindsided when this comes about. So advance directives help you line out things that you would like to happen in the future. And this will need to have, your name, your information, your date of birth, if you're living in the States, preferably your social security card number. If you're living like in Britain, something that identifies you specifically, such as your national insurance card number. And then at the end, you would sign it and have two witnesses sign it. Now, these two witnesses do not need to be somebody, and preferably should not be somebody that is related to you. They especially do not need to be anybody that you might mention in your will or that has any say-so in your will. The reason for this is just for legal ambiguity, so that they can see that you made these decisions of your own free will. Some of the other things that would be considered in the future would be like medical power of attorney. Basically, a medical power of attorney let somebody makes medical decisions in your behalf. Now, that person should be somebody who's going to make the same decisions that you would make if it were you, or that you've discussed with them what decisions you would make if it were you. And this is in the event that something happens to you and you're not able to make those decisions. And so they would make the decisions for you, and in regards to medical. As well, one of the things that you should do, regardless of your health state, is to write a will. Now, a will lets everybody know what's going to happen to your finances, what's going to happen to, if you have children at home, what's going to happen to them, in regards to, if something happens to you and your spouse. And it also helps people understand what you want. So one of the things that you should do as well when making a will is it has to have your information as well, and it has to be signed by two witnesses. Now, some states like Texas will allow a written will, meaning you could write it yourself. It could be handwritten, so it could be anything that you want to write down by your hand, but they do like you to have two witnesses, and those witnesses are preferably somebody that's not going to benefit from the will, or somebody that's not mentioned in the will. Basically, not relatives or somebody that's going to benefit from the will. One of the other things is to set up funeral plans. I know it's nothing that we like to discuss, but one of the things that was really beneficial, especially in my mother-in-law's case, was that even years before she accidentally died in a crash, she had funeral plans made. She had plans made that should something happen to her, that her family and those around her wouldn't be under a financial burden, that they would be able to go ahead and set up the funeral and get everything done for her. So she already had a funeral plan made and other things made for her. So these are some of the things that you need to consider. Fortunately, there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of stuff that you can get. Some bookstores that I remember in Britain and some places even in America have little places where you can go into the bookstore and get what you would call written will. It's a piece of paper that's pre-made, and you just put in the aspects of what you want and where you want it, and then you sign it, put your information in it, and get two witnesses to sign it of two people that aren't related to you or that aren't mentioned in the will. And as well, there's a lot of places that have funeral plans specifically for patients, for people that are over 50, that are a bit cheaper to do on a monthly thing. You'll see some of the advertisements on TV for those. So I don't have any specific recommendations about which ones you should get, because I think that is a personal thing up to you. But it's definitely something that we should start preparing for now. So, my name is Ray Upchurch. I hope this information has been useful to you. Next time, we're going to talk about jobs and whether you could continue working while you have heart failure in your jobs. So I will see you then. Thank you for joining me.